Simon, I thought it would be interesting to talk about cloud adoption specifically. I know you're keen to talk about changes to the way people are selling. But just to start us off, could you just give us your general thoughts on cloud adoption in public sector specifically, what's been happening recently, what's changed, and back to your point about selling, how do they link together?
Okay. Cloud in public sector is really taking off right at the moment. What we're seeing is the central government departments leading the way. Public sector local public sector starting to bite now and get interested and see the successes and complement the approach they're taking, out in the National Health Service, in the police services as well. So it's very much a complementary thing. But what we're also seeing is now that some of the big contracts are coming up for renewal, some of the big legacy projects, the whole thing is being broken down to smaller, more edible pieces. Everybody knows that the big projects have got a very good track record, they've had a lot of failure, and breaking things down to easy, edible chunks is a way of making things successful in the future. And the cloud technologies allow us to do that because you can switch it up, you can switch it off, you can turn the volume up to 11, you can turn it back down to 2. It changes the way we deliver stuff, it changes the way we build stuff, and it changes the way we run stuff.
Right. And you mentioned the way contracts are changing there to become smaller. Is cloud enabling that to happen, or was that the path anyway? We were going down that route, and thankfully cloud's there to help.
I think everybody realises we've got to break projects down to much smaller edible chunks to line up with some of the commitments on government savings and reducing failures. And until cloud came along, there isn't really a visible way of doing that. But what cloud is also doing, it's opening up the field. It's making a level playing field in industry so that SMEs, small organisations, large organisations can all compete fairly together. And we haven't had that before, which is one of the reasons we ended up in what many people term as the oligopoly.
Right. How do you feel about more SMEs entering the market? I'm not quite sure of the complete figures. I think it's 25%, isn't it? The target. Is that a good thing for public sector?
We're currently running at 17% in our organisation of our out-facing billing. As a technologist and a participant in the industry, I think it's great because we're seeing some fantastic innovation. We're seeing SMEs making us feel uncomfortable, us having to change. We are partnering, we've got 130 partner SMEs at the moment in CGI, and they are in all of our engagements because at the end of the day they're better at innovating than us. And if you look at the makeup of the organisation, we've got the industrial scale, we've got the big service desks, we can invest, they've got the great ideas, and in the middle there's a nice sweet spot.
Right.
And it's more than that as well, because we can then take those services and the things that they do and the things that they're good at out to the rest of industry. And we're now seeing that our SME relationships are paying benefits outside the public sector, where there's marketplaces they might not have had the opportunity to participate in.
The partnerships is an interesting point. Again, I don't know the current figures, but I saw recently that 10.5% of government sales were direct to SMEs, and something like 19.5% were indirect to SMEs, which is through the partnerships you're talking about. And it did occur to me, does it matter whether it's direct or indirect? The point is the money's flowing in the right direction from the government's point of view. Should we make that distinction?
I think it will be good when there is more direct than indirect, but there needs to be a balance, because quite often we'll have a service or something that they will take and innovate with and build and improve on. Quite often, we need to work with them through a partnering arrangement or a collaboration arrangement under G-Cloud. So it goes both ways. And I can quite frankly see the day when we're even subbing to SMEs quite easily. And there's no problem with that. I think the days where there was a stigma to it have way gone.
Okay. I think risk is often something that public sector can be, they are very risk averse, understandably.
Daily Mail effect.
Yeah, quite. Completely, and also it's taxpayers' money. Is there still risks inherent around cloud technology and cloud as a route to using new systems? Should public sector be worried about it, or is that argument gone now? Is it become a trusted way of doing things?
It's quite an emotive decision to move to cloud. It's not the same as some of the big public cloud providers. We're quite fortunate, in the UK we have a very stringent set of security rules and standards, and everything has been constructed to those standards and assured to those standards as well. And yes, security is changing. The standards are staying the same, but the way in which we assure them going forward is changing, and that's for the better. So I think we now understand those. We've got the core services constructed. Everybody knows the rules, and the controls are in place in government and in GDS to make sure that they're adhered to.
So is there anything else left to do? I mean, I was quite interested in standards and how far they had developed. Does more need to be done? Is it always a moving feast?
I mean, there's always more needs to be done. I think what we're seeing now is possibly two things. Firstly, with some of the big departments coming up for their big monolithic contract renewals, they're breaking those down, they're disaggregating them into small pieces. The market in G-Cloud 6 and 7 will reflect that with lots of middleware and PaaS solutions. There's also a big push towards PSN, or what PSN becomes, so that public sector can be joined up. We've got lots of clouds, but they're not always as connected as they could be. Right. And I think that's the big challenge that a dialogue like today's and some of the sessions that we have at the moment will help us fix.
Yeah, G-Cloud's an interesting point in itself. We're up to version 6, and I'm sure in every iteration it's improving. Is it doing what it's supposed to do in your eyes? Is there more to be done?
There's always going to be more to be done. As soon as they take the foot off the gas, then I'm sure it'll lose its way. It's not going to, though, with the current leadership and the way it's been running and evolving. I think they need to help us work with local government. As a large organisation, we have a nice view of the market, right. And we can make some decisions as to what we want to put on G-Cloud and what we want to invest in. But that's not a luxury that many of the SMEs actually have. When you look at the number of organisations that have sold, 430 I think was the number, on G-Cloud, I think we can do more to help them aim in the right direction, because they don't all have the luxury of a group of people that can look at the market, engage with the market to see what's coming next.
Sure. So you must have lots of partners yourself that are on G-Cloud, so you can help them.
Yes,
I'm presuming, I think that's part of the battle with G-Cloud is understanding how you present yourself on G-Cloud, and you can help them with that role.
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned PSN as well, which is probably slightly off topic today, but it's still interesting nonetheless. That seems to be developing well. I know it's met certain points and milestones along the way. What's the next stages there?
I'm not a PSN specialist, but I would say PSN is another unique thing we have in the UK compared to other countries. A lot of other countries are very jealous of having the standards like that. It's going to be the glue. Okay. The systems that we buy today are made up of data that's stage free and data in transit. We've got to have secure, stable and standard ways of shifting stuff about. We need PSN.
So this is probably a very generic question, but I'm just interested in where cloud's going in the future. I know from a G-Cloud point of view, our local authorities are perhaps using it as much as they could, and I'm sure G-Cloud is probably more used in some parts of public sector than others, education perhaps more than NHS, for example. But what's the future like? I can't imagine we're ever going to have a utopia where G-Cloud cloud is across the board and everybody's using it. What's the balance going to be?
Well, I think it's part of the United Kingdom. We can't tell local government what to do. There is no central edict that can dictate it. What we need to do is to make the marketplace attractive enough and have the right things in there for them to pick it up. I think there needs to be some early adopters. That always works in public sector. Somebody who very visibly has a lot of success with it, public sector. And I think that's probably going to be the way forward. We need to find the silver bullet, the special event that makes it attractive to local government, whether that's addressing it regionally or a city's needs, or just some specific services.
Great. And I guess just the last point about your own business and public sector. What are your, if this is not too broad a question, but what have your plans been and how are you going to help those partners as you moved into 2015?
Oh, well, when the Cloud First policy came out, we adopted that internally. And for the past 2 years, every conversation we've had with our customers is about moving to cloud and migrating to cloud. So all of our technology renewals, technology refreshes, conversations with our customers are always about the strategies that they've got in government and then moving to cloud. So we're doing that ourselves. We're doing it to our own customers. We're doing it to our own business.